Hi guys, welcome to Origin. Funny story, in the last video I talked about deleting videos, and I also said I made that one and the 6 that came before it about 2 weeks ago, and I end up deleting the video that came before that. And I just want to explain why so that there's no confusion. There were really two reasons, one which I gave to a few people in the video before I deleted it, and the second one which I've yet to explain. The first is that I was very confused as to what efilism actually meant. And as I've learned more about it, it just seems to me to be what I've always thought antinatalism was, which is, having kids is wrong. You're imposing life on someone who can't consent to it, and they might not thank you for that later on. One person in the comment section to the last video said that they wanted to distance themselves from antinatalists who were more in favour of, say, population control. Ones that weren't focused on the moral issue of bringing life into being in the first place. The second reason is, in the video, I talked about this rumour of a death cult involving in Mendham. Now, I want to make this absolutely clear. I've not seen any evidence for that. Even if the definition problem didn't call for taking the video down, this did. I shouldn't have said it in the video. And Gary, in his response, which for the rest of the video I'm going to talk about, I think he took that he took the death cult thing personally. So just so that it is very clear, it was a rumour. It shouldn't be taken as fact at all, and I'm sorry, Gary. As to the video response, I'll link it below so you can have a look at it. Right, so putting your name in the description. That had nothing to do with the death cult thing. If I mentioned someone in a video who I've not mentioned many times before, I put that person's name there just so that people know who I'm talking about and they can check out the channel. It's a shout out, basically. No malicious intent there whatsoever. You also commented on how I had in the description a light here for Jonestown. That was just playing on the skewed interpretation I had of efilism at the time. But this idea that Jonestown was an economic experiment, well, I think we need to look a bit closer at that. So first off, to anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'll link the Wikipedia articles for Jim Jones and Jonestown in the description. The first and most important thing to note is that Jim Jones was an atheist. He was also a communist, and he observed through faith healings how religion could be used to generate money and to, give him a platform for his ideas. And at the Jonestown establishment in Guyana, he was the one who told his followers to commit suicide. Now, we can debate over whether or not it's a cult, but I hope we can agree on the fact that this wasn't a good thing that happened. Which brings me on to the next thing you said, which was that, you kind of implied that not all death cults, not all suicide cults are bad. I can't agree with that. I mean, when a cult leader tells a group of people to commit suicide, that's morally equivalent to killing them. Suicide in and of itself, we can debate whether that's morally wrong. Personally, I would say that even if it was, spreading the idea to people who already feel suicidal will only make them feel worse. It would kind of make them feel trapped, because on one hand, their life's so miserable they're contemplating ending it. On the other hand, we're telling them what their family going to think, and they probably already know this stuff. We're just making them feel more guilty. We're just adding to the already huge amount of suffering they must be feeling. But as long as someone who commands respect among the people he's telling this to tells those people that they should commit suicide, and they do it, that's always wrong. That's my position. You chastised me for not researching your philosophy. And remember, that's why I took the video down. I got the definition of efilism wrong, according to you and, the efilists that argued on my video. But I did try to research it, and that brings me on to a really important point. You coined the term efilism, and as an absolute minimum, what I expect of someone who coins a term is for them to be able to explain what it is. When I talked about the 6 15-minute videos, I was talking about the videos you have on your efilist channel. At no point in the hour and a half that you spend talking in those videos do you say the words efilism is. However much I knew about efilism, I know tons about antinatalism. I know all the arguments. I've been watching videos on it for the past year or so. You know, I'm subscribed to a user, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Skid Row Radio. He's made a few videos about it. And what I heard in the video were the same antinatalist arguments that I've heard tons of times before. The problem was that if you were describing efilism in that video, it was, to me, indistinguishable from antinatalism, or what I consider antinatalism to be. It would seem obvious to me that if you wanted to coin a new term, then you would want to somehow distance yourself from antinatalism. You want to describe a position that, from what I understand now, is more specific. But if that's the case, you need to properly explain what it is. No one should have to watch an hour and a half worth of videos and come out more confused than they were when they went in. I don't know what your plans are for efilism, but if you want more people to be efilists, as a very basic step, you need to be able to explain in simple terms very clearly what it means. So this has nothing to do with attention spans or how much time I'm prepared to spend researching, because I'll spend the time doing it, but there needs to be one video dedicated to nothing more than explaining what efilism is and how it differs from antinatalism. And if you want more people to be efilists, that's a video they need to watch. Otherwise, well, it's not going to go anywhere. So yes, I uploaded a video in which I wasn't entirely clear on what efilism is, and I took it down because, well, your group told me I was wrong. But if this is meant to be a movement and you expect people to wade through tons of videos just to, you know, have any idea what it means, you're doomed from the start. And I mean this as genuinely helpful advice here. I'm trying to give constructive criticism. You said that I didn't make any arguments against antinatalism in the video, but you also explained antinatalism to me as if I didn't know what that was. As I've already said, I'm very familiar with that position. I know about the risk equation argument. I know about the argument of imposing life on people without their consent, without them being able to consent, because obviously they've not been born. And yes, in the 2 videos I made on antinatalism, efilism, I haven't made any arguments against it, but I will explain why. It goes back to what I said in the first video I made about antinatalism, which I referenced in the second video. You know, the tiny clip that you played in your video, in your response, did mention it. I'm not sure if you've seen it. But what I said was, you know, if people want to have less kids, given the current situation we're in today, you know, the population is growing, it's aging, we've got, you know, we could be facing resource shortages in the near future. If we don't produce enough energy from sources other than oil before it runs out, we could have a problem there. Given that context, I don't have a problem with any philosophy which says we'll have less kids or even no kids. And of course, antinatalists believe that having kids at all is wrong. Now, I disagree with that on a fundamental level, at the level of, you know, the moral foundation of the position itself. I don't believe that suffering is always bad. I'm thinking specifically of when you get pleasure, which I'm defining here to mean the opposite of suffering, as a result of it. Of course, it would have to be more pleasure than suffering. And if our moral foundations are completely different, then we're most likely never going to agree anyway, so I'm saving you a pointless discussion by not arguing against your position. But in practice, antinatalism means that there are a bunch of people who are never going to have kids. Now, on the other hand, there's going to be quite a lot, well, certainly a significant number of people who'll have tons of kids. You know, it might not even be their fault. They might have just gone for one and end up with octuplets or something. It's rare, but it happens. We need people who are never going to have kids to offset the people that will have tons. it doesn't matter to me at all that you find the rest of us to be immoral. So even though we disagree, I see a certain group of people, a certain limited number of people, holding a position which means they'll never have kids as being a very practical thing in today's society. As long as, bringing me on to the last thing I want to say, and the one thing that still stands from the video deleted, as long as it doesn't turn into anything uglier. I'm thinking specifically of someone who will misunderstand what antinatalism is, not realise the moral foundation that it's built on, and take their position from being voluntary human extinction to involuntary human extinction. Now, short of having a Hitler-like dictator with access to tons of nuclear weapons, it's unlikely that anyone will ever actually achieve that. But it is possible that, something like a school shooting might occur based off of a misinterpretation of antinatalism. And of course, all positions can be abused like that, but, whereas, racism might be abused to someone killing an entire race of people, or, someone holding a particular religious belief very strongly might, end up killing people who disagree with them on a religious basis. Someone who misinterpreted antinatalism would see all human life as a problem, which makes it one of the most dangerous positions to abuse. So as long as antinatalism remains in the predominantly moderate form that it's taken at the moment, I agree to disagree with you. But if you're looking for someone to argue with, I'm not interested. I don't want to make videos about things that other people have already made tons about. And this is one of those things. A lot of people have made videos disagreeing with you. And we can have this on record. This is the last video that I'm making about antinatalism. So thank you for responding to the video, Gary. Yeah, it was a bit heated. Yeah, you threw out a lot of insults and stuff like that. I don't care, it's YouTube, it comes with the territory. I wouldn't be making these videos if that was a problem. But yeah, it's cool. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.